All right. Bunch of laundry on this chair. I try to put it all away, but I don't have enough space to put all the friggin' t-shirts I own. Um, Wanted to tell you a story. I've been a little out of it. That trip to Pahrump was a thing. It took a little bit out of me. I really enjoyed meeting the people I met. Again, the Low Side Cigar Lounge, that was an awesome thing. And Phantasmic. But when I got back, before I left, something happened. That did have me a little off. And then when I got back, there was no water in the tank in my toilet. So I had to flush by dumping water down with a pitcher, to use it. I called the manager and, he came by yesterday. He was supposed to be in the morning, but he didn't get here till the afternoon. I was sitting here all day waiting for him to show up. Obviously, I could have swapped the guts out myself, but I didn't have them, and he had them. If I wouldn't have bought them, would have been fine. I also have a bidet hooked up to this thing that had fallen apart like 4 months ago, and I kind of rigged it to work. So I just ordered a new one. And the only thing about those bidets is the cleaning them, right? So you gotta, I have a spray bottle with Simple Green. So I hit that, and if I need to, I'll wipe it with a little bit of toilet paper or something. But there's a newer one that's cleaner. You can just tell it'll be a little bit better. Gross thing to talk about, I suppose, to some people. But the guy who came over to help me, he doesn't really know what he's doing. He couldn't get the coupler that's a splitter off of the unit that screws into the tank. I went in there to try to help him out. I had to get a tool out of the truck. That's an oscillating tool to cut the plastic, and then I did it all myself. And I was like, okay, you put it back together. Don't worry about the bidet. I'll order a new one. And that's all settled. But I had this conversation with him about the situation that happened before I left. So I'll tell you about it real quick. This is like why normies can't really get too close or be friendly with loonies. Look, women that have nose rings, that hoop here, the piercing here, different color hair, they've got that in combination with tattoos and they own at least one cat or more, you should really keep your distance from that. Unless you're one of those people. Then they can have their little bubble that they want to live in and say all the nonsense and believe everything that they want. So because this thing happened, then keep in mind, of course, Saturday there's the attempt on Trump, which really, I'm jumping around a little bit. I'll get to this story, but I have to say this. That messed me up, man. That was so effed up. And everything that's been coming out and the lack of security, everything else I've already talked about in those little videos, it really bummed me out. And the only thing that's snapping me out of it, I don't even like thinking about it right now because it puts me in a bad mood. Like that, even that Jen Psaki person came out of the woodwork again. And I hate her on the scene because I used to kind of dig on redheads a little bit. She ruined redheads for me, man, forever. Just because of the nonsense that comes out of her friggin' mouth. And she said, this is not the time to be pointing fingers. Well, then when is the time to point? Right now is the time. I'm pointing fingers right now. It's your friggin' fault, man. People like you, people of your ilk, you made this happen. You've been wanting to destroy the guy all this time. So we're going to shelve that. But just one more thing that pissed me off. Now, before I left, I had this thing that happened with this neighbor of mine that moved in. So she has been here for a while now. I don't know. Maybe 6 months or so. I can't remember. She's from the East Coast. She's in education. I think she's like a psychological teacher, psychology or something for like kids with issues. I don't know what the whole story is. Not attracted to her, never have been. Just putting that out there. She's my type as far as her size. She's a tiny little thing. But and I don't want to say anything like that seems overly judgmental or anything about people's appearance. A lot of people, that you can't control how you're born, what you look like. So I think it's kind of wrong to be picking on people over their appearance. They have no saying it, Your parents were fucking ugly, you're going to be ugly. That's how it works, right? I told a story this past weekend about that. Like, not that I think I'm some good-looking guy or anything, but I remember I've said this before. I was 7 years old. My mother was such a piece of friggin' work, man. Such a piece of work. It's just so, it's not a great person. If you met her and you weren't in the family, you didn't know her, you would think she's the greatest person on the planet. All right, she would convince people that she was just a likable, fun, great, beautiful, beautiful face, you know. And I remember asking my dad. I was just so frustrated with the bullshit at 7, and before that even. There's funny stories about me wanting to leave the house at like 4 years old. I can't take it with you people anymore. I've always been fiercely independent. And I said to my dad, "It's like, Dad, why? Why her? Why do you put up with this?" And he just looks right at me. He says, "Son," actually called me Michael. Michael, life is tough. It's tougher if you're ugly. You know, so he just saw my mom being so good looking. He figured if he had kids with her, he'd have a chance at having kids. At least they were not butt ugly. So life might be a little easier for you. He's telling that to a 7-year-old. There's a bunch of shit. I love my dad. There's a bunch of stuff that he had said to me over the years that when I look back on how I lived my life after hearing these things, I realized how I kind of fucked up along the way a little bit. So it's pretty crazy. So, yeah. So this woman, to describe her without being like mean-spirited or anything, just so you get a picture of her, mousy, pockmarked face, gray hair, appears to be fit till you see her enough and you see like the varicose type of veins in her thighs and things like that. Not overpicking, I'm just saying these things are there. None of that matters. It comes into play in a moment here. But when she first moved in, she's very gregarious and a little bit like Sarah, Wonder Hussy, you know, a little bit of a ball buster. She's from like New York. Cool. I'm into that. I can dig it. I know how that is. And so I was like that. And there was an interaction within the first day or two in the little basement over here where there's a laundry room. And there's another woman down there that I've known for well over 20 years who lives up here, who I think is hot. And she and I used to go out a lot. We used to go to dinners and make out, do stuff like that. But she kind of leans, you know, also an educator, grade school teacher. So yeah, she's constantly saying things that I'm just like, no, that's not how this is. The cool thing about her is like she listens, she gets it, but she keeps reverting back to her programming and she can't help it. So that was always a little bit of a problem for me with her. But we're still friends. And we have a rapport and we say things a certain way. And you guys get the gist of me. I'm old school guy. I'm not fitting into this new woke kind of reality that these types of people are trying to force us to participate in. I'm not participating in it, all right? I'm going to be a little crass once in a while. I'm going to sound like a chauvinist from time to time. I'm going to say comments that could easily be seen as sexist and all these things. All these things I'm going to say because it's just me being me. I'm not trying to say them purposefully to be, you know, controversial or to stand out or anything, or to purposefully be like that to irk those people. I'm just being myself, all right? I'm a Gen Xer. I've been around a long time. If you know me, you know I'm not that big of a jerk off. You know I'm actually a nice guy. But it's just my personality. So, and not to get into this too deeply, but screw you anyhow, man. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what your chosen friggin' pronouns are. I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. And again, for you to be trying to make everybody else accept your level of delusion only points out how delusional and crazy you are. It's nobody else's business. Stop trying to make us be okay with your personal choices. I don't care about what your personal choices are. She saw the interaction between me and my other neighbor, again, who we've known each other for decades, and she made this comment like, "Oh, you're okay with him talking to you like that?" And I just looked right at her. I was like, "Hey, who the hell are you? You just got here. We've known each other for decades. We're cool. Stop trying to make it not cool." And after that, she straightened her ass out for a while. Now, when she moved in, she was, you know, very nice. She still is. You know, she's always asking. You know, she knows I made the deck out here. She wanted to put some chairs there and all that. I'm like, fine. Just don't impede my egress. Because I got to walk out my back door past her back door. She doesn't really have rights necessarily to the porch other than the very beginning of it that's right outside her door. And that's perfectly fine. Put some stuff there, but I got to get in and out of there. So she's cool with that. And she's asked me for quite a few things here and there to help her out. No problem. Hanging paintings for her. She locked herself out of her apartment the other day. I misspent youth. I had to break into just about anything. So it's literally 4 seconds, I got her door open. She's like, oh. The thing about her is, like, when she first got here, she was being, in my opinion, I don't think I'm imagining things, very flirty. And, again, not into her. And every single time she sets something up where we're supposed to talk, she kind of puts this kind of uniform on, which is midriff showing, super tight top, no bra, hard nipples, hot pants, you know, very revealing stuff. And I'm like, okay. I've always been the type to focus on the positive, so I might, be like, oh, it's a nice attribute there, but the rest of it is, it's what's going on in my mind, But I'm being polite. And she was telling me at one point, like when she first got in, well, let me know when you're coming because I'm always walking around naked. She's basically planting these seeds in my brain. And then she's like, oh, I'm online dating. I mean, did a bunch of dates this week. I'm like, what's that about? Like, why do you feel she like basically admitting she just needs to get shtooked? I'm like, okay. She's basically telling me all this personal stuff, all along the lines of, if it was any other situation, you'd be like, oh, this person probably wants to, well, hey, who could blame her? Who could blame her? But I'm not having it. Plus, I've learned a long time ago, shitting where you eat, not very smart move to do. Some you could do it with. It's a practice you should avoid. And especially for me, a guy who's been living here as long as I have. I don't want to jeopardize that, Man, there's something in there. Maybe that's just a bubble, I hope. So, dead mouse. So, that's a little background with it. Now, she has been dating a guy for a little while. And even with that, when this guy first came along, she's thought, well, I found this guy's a real big guy and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm naturally going to make the joke of, oh, so you like him big, huh? She goes, oh, yeah. She said it right out. She's, I'm a bit of a size queen. And I looked at her and I kind of laughed. I went, well, the funny thing about that, size queens, basically what you're saying is that you have a really giant vagina. To which, she chuckled. So what I'm getting at here is we have had this interaction, talk about sex, sexuality, that sort of thing. If I gave her a compliment in the past, even if it was just a regular, benign thing, I like your outfit, or she goes, oh, I know I'm cute. She was always overly confident, delusional about her appearance and who she thinks she is and how she thinks other people see her and everything else. And I touched on this last Sunday, on the delusional thinking of women based on the fact that you're a woman. It's easy for you to think that you're hot because you can get laid like that if that's what you want to do. That's where her mind is at. She brought all that stuff up, and again, I keep myself away. But every once in a while, it's just, I think it's me reacting to her outfits around me and the way that she does her shtick. So I started like testing her in a way a little bit, where I'd be like, oh, you look good here, or what, that looks good. And one day she did say to me, she goes, kind of, after all this time and being cool with it and giving it to me and giving me compliments, telling me I'm handsome, all this other stuff, she turned a corner where it was like, oh, that was kind of creepy. And I didn't understand that statement, because if you could have recorded every interaction we ever had, you would say, well, wait a second, she was saying these things to you, she's doing these in front of you, saying this up, all this stuff up. And any of the interaction I've had with her, what I've said has never been anything untoward or that bad. The other day I came in, she could see me coming in. It takes me a while. I do like kind of a K-turn move to back the van in, and the deck is up here. I could see her. She's up there. And she happens to be wearing her typical cropped here, super tight, boom, super short shorts. But this time she had like a wide leg opening on them. And she's literally at the top of the stairs, bending over with her ass pointing right in my direction. You can't not see it. And I just happened to glance up and I was like, all right. And I got up there and I said something along those lines of like, well, yeah, well, I mean, your ass looks great in those shorts today. I mean, what else am I supposed to do? And she did that creepy thing again. And I was kind of like, okay, that's a weird, I thought that was a bit of a weird response from her because you know what you look like. You know what you're wearing. And maybe today that's just a normal thing. It did strike me as weird several years ago when I was home at the beach because thongs they've been around a long time. But when 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds are wearing thongs at the beach, we've crossed the line, in my opinion. And these days now, the way that social media is and the way that people are dressing and all this stuff, you're supposed, and I said this to the guys, the young guys, like, I don't know how you're doing it with the surfer dudes, and they're like the sons of my friends, you know. I don't know how you guys are supposed to deal with this, because even when they're not at the beach, they're still walking around half naked all the time. Very sexualized. A lot of makeup, the whole thing, everything they're doing is about making themselves sexual, but you're supposed to pretend that you don't see it. You're not supposed to have any kind of reaction to it. These are women that didn't learn the right sexual education in school about how testosterone and hormones work. Like, you're literally turning men on with your appearance, but then men aren't supposed to notice it. So that's a game that I'm not going to participate in. That's very strange to me. If you're going to be acting like that, you're going to get a response from me from time to time. If you're a stranger, I'm going to ignore it. So I didn't think too much of it. And then the next day, I got a text from her saying, hey, I got some of your mail and I want to talk to you about something. So went out back, knocked on her door, sat down in a little chair. She came out. I was looking at my phone and she sat down as she's talking. I'm not even looking at her yet. And she says, so I just want to say that, or she says to me, she says, I just want to ask you to not comment on my body or anything anymore. And I just looked briefly. I stood up and I just said, never happen again, and walked away. And as I'm walking away, she tries to make it a thing, like even more dramatic, just make it more of a dramatic thing. Like, she's trapping me. This is a whole setup, in my opinion. I'm laying the groundwork to let you know the way I'm viewing this is a setup. You've been doing all these things, saying all these things, dressed this way, acting this way, telling me what you're thinking, what you're doing. You like big dick. You're dressed half friggin' naked all the time. The cat situation. At one point, she's leaving her door open and burning this disgusting incense, which is wafting through my apartment. I had to say to her, like, hey, you can't do that. It literally makes me want to vomit. You can't do that. You just moved in, and you're already trying to take over. So, yeah, all that stuff was going on. And so she's trying to make it more dramatic. I get up, and again, then I looked right at her. I said, hey, never going to happen again. Went in the place. That was it. Then I drove the Prump, dealt with all that stuff. And then there's the Trump shooting, everything else. Come back. Toilet's broken. Not in a good fucking mood. Then I decided to tell the manager, who I've known for many years now. And he and I talk about the Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs people that live here. All women, by the way, we got one woman here that's so crazy, lost her shit. She jumped off a bridge onto the road below. Trying to kill herself, and it didn't kill her. She lived through it, and you would think that might have knocked some sense into her, made her a better person or a nicer human being. But no, she's doubled down. Total friggin' bitch. They're actually evicting her now. I got another Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs bro that moved over here, who was a couple doors down, actress, kind of cute, had a major problem with everybody around her, other person living next to her, the people across the way, all people I know. I've been here 32 years living in this apartment. I've seen them all come and go. She got real nice to me because she wanted help moving her apartment, moving her stuff out, and I helped her. And then after I helped her, we got along for a couple days, and I was like, yeah, I want to see it when it's all done. I walked by one day, months later, I was like, oh, I'd like to see what you set up. She's like, sorry. Like she never talked to me before. Like, she never tried to befriend me to help her. So another crazy one. I could go. We've had some crazy people. It's Los Angeles, So the manager and I have a rapport, and we have a thing about how we talk about what's going on, and he knows how sane of a person I am and how solid of a person I am, and I've never had any kind of issue with anybody living here where anybody's ever complained about me saying the wrong thing or hitting on somebody who lives here, because I don't do it. I barely interact with anybody. This chick made me interact with her. And I said to him, I said, listen, just so you know, I don't think that this woman that moved in is as cool as she portrayed herself to be. You know, she said something the other day, and he cut me off. He said, dude, she talked to me. And that's when I got really upset, because I said to him, I said, dude, that's none of your fucking business. Like, I wasn't even going to get into the details that I just gave all of you. I was just going to say, hey, she's just something about her. I'm just letting you know, in case down the road more stuff happens, you have a record of me saying to you, I think she could be a little bit unstable, and she's definitely pretending to be cool. And he told me that what she said, which was what she had said to me, like, I guess I made her feel uncomfortable because I said this thing. He didn't know the background. So I filled him on the background, some of which he knew because he'd seen us interacting before. And he's very cool. He's like, dude, I got your back. You know, it's like, I told her, I was like, Mike's been here a long time, longer than I've been here. You know how long he's been here. I talk to everybody else. They know him. He's the only guy here that everybody here can count on. Somebody needs help, I'm there. Shit goes crazy, I'm here. Some crazy person comes back here, breaks into the place, whatever, I deal with it. They call me before they call the cops. I deal with it. I had the old manager call me one time. I'm going to tell you the story. It's kind of funny. There was a guy in the laundry room many years ago. I get a call from the manager. Hey, Mike, we got a guy down in the laundry room masturbating. He won't leave. I called the cops. They're not coming. All right. So I go down there and I put my little 380 in my back pocket just to be on the safe side, because I don't know what I'm walking into. And this guy's sitting there at the end of the folding table. The folding table was obscuring my view of his crotch, but he's got a porno magazine open, and I could see that his pants are down around his ankles, and he's freaking stroking it, man. And I go in there, I'm like, hey, dude. And he looks up at me, he goes, hey, give me a minute. And I, like, it took everything I had to try to not laugh. And I took the pistol out of my back pocket. I didn't point it at him or anything, but I held it up like this. I say, are you fucking crazy? And he looks up at me. Oh, he pulls up his pants, grabs his porno mag, and runs out of there. So I'm the guy. Something's happening. I'm the one dude here that everybody knows, Marine, masculine figure, dude, no problem. I'll deal with it. I've had to throw people out of places. I had a girl call me up one day. She was calling me super late, like 2 in the morning. I wasn't answering the phone. When I got up early, she asked me to come over because there was a guy in her place she couldn't get rid of. And I go over there, and he's in her bed. She was in the living room. And I had to throw this dude out of her house, out of her pad. And then she told me later that was a guy that she'd been buying cocaine from and everything else. So there was something, but you know, you call me up, I'll go over there and deal with it. That's who I am. So everybody knows. I'm just mention this to you because you don't know. Point is I'm not the jerk off in the scenario. She is. And now I'm in a situation where I can't talk to her. And I'm probably not going to bring this up, but part of me does want to say to her, it's like, why would you, this is a thing between us, I get it. I think if this is the type of person I know that I couldn't have a civil conversation with about it. Like if I just said to her, look, you moved in, you said this, you said that, you did this, you dressed this way, you got me over your pad, you're playing all these seeds in my head, and now you spun it. If I did that, she'd get very defensive, and it would turn into a huge argument or something. She'd try to make it look like I'm the bad guy, so I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to bring any of that up. But I'm tempted to say to her, why would you say something to the manager about that when it's a one-time thing, and now to me, that's crazy. It's like you're coming into this place, and now you're going to try to paint me as a bad guy, which could hurt me for living here. And I've been here a long time. You're the new person. Who the hell are you to come into our lives here and screw it up with your crazy nonsense? And again, she's wearing the uniform. You can see it. The nose piercings, the tattoos, the kooky hair, the cat. Like these people, they let you know who they are. And now I know for sure. Every time I deal with one of those people, I can't deal with it. I can't talk to them anymore. So it's a shame. It's a bummer. I'm going to be over it, but I'm just a little bit bummed out over all the stuff over the last few days is all. And I'll snap out of it. Everything will be fine. I got a job working now. I got the numbers. I talked to my client. We've agreed on a price. She's going to get the money to me in the next couple days. I'm going to be sweating my ass off in the valley for a couple weeks building this thing out. But tomorrow morning I'm getting up and I'm going to drive out to Redlands or something. It's like 68 miles away or something, just underneath Big Bear on the 10 to Track Motive finally. And they're going to measure up the front of the van to see if their extendable extreme angle CV axles would fit in the Astro. And if they do, and you've got a lifted Astro van, because it'll work better that way. Nope, you only want it if your van is lifted. I'll let you guys know, for those of you here for the Astro van content. And then what he had said to me a while ago, we haven't rehashed this, but when I talk to him, I'll see if he's cool to be on camera. I will shoot some video of it, of him measuring things, of Track Motive. Maybe he'll take me through and let me see the facilities or something. That'd be a pretty cool video. And he said that if it works, if they fit, that they would make me a set for the van, because they think that there'd be a market for the lifted Astro van community. So I'm doing a good thing there too. Also, one last little thing, because I like to put people together and I like people to do well, and it makes me feel good to put people together that turns into something good for them. Matt at the Low Side Cigar Lounge, I mentioned to him that I know a guy who has a company called Hermosa Cigars, Scott Della Pena. I couldn't remember his name when I was talking to Matt in the interview that first day. Well, I was sending notes with Scott last night over Facebook. I was looking at his page. I was looking at Matt's page. I called Scott. I told him about Matt. I just talked to Matt on the phone, and I want to put those guys together because Scott's cigar company, he could actually make a house blend for Matt at the cigar place that would be his own, and hopefully they'll get together and then they could both make money together, capitalism. And that would just make me feel good. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a bundle of cigars from Scott or something. That would make me feel good. I'm not doing it because I want something out of it. I just, two cool people doing cool stuff. Put them together, man. Magic. With that, that's it. Have a great day. Be kind to one another. I'll catch you guys in the next one.